Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are getting into a really big question for anyone who works with data. How do you get your database to talk to the rest of the world? We're going to break down how a program like Microsoft Access can connect with all the other tools you use every single day. We're talking about turning it from a data silo into a real communication hub. Think about it for a second. A database all by itself is powerful, of course it is, but its true value, its real potential, that gets unlocked when it stops being an island. The magic really happens when your data can connect to, share with, and be enriched by this whole wider world of information. So let's build some bridges. So where do we even start building those bridges? Well, first we've got to bring the world into our database. This is all about enriching our data, right? Adding context that makes every single record that much more powerful and useful.
Okay, we've got two main ways to do this, and the difference is simple, but it is so important. A hyperlink, think of it like a shortcut on your desktop. It just points to something that lives somewhere else. An attachment, though, that's like taking a physical document and stapling it right into your file. You're actually storing a copy inside the database itself. And just think about how versatile a hyperlink is. With just one click, right from inside your database, you can pop open a company's website, launch an email to a contact, or pull up a specific project file. All of a sudden, your database isn't just a storage locker, it's a command center. Attachments, on the other hand, are perfect for when that file needs to live with the record. This is absolutely ideal for things that are a fundamental part of that entry. An employee's photo, a candidate's resume, a client-signed contract. You're keeping everything essential all bundled together in one neat place. So how can you tell if a record has these bundled files? Well, Access gives you this really simple visual cue. You'll see this little paperclip icon, and the number right next to it tells you exactly how many files are tucked away in there. It's a quick, at-a-glance way to see what extra info you've got.
All right, so we've brought data in. Let's flip the script and talk about sending it out. Because once your data is all organized, its whole purpose is often to be shared or analyzed or presented somewhere else. This is all about getting your info into the right tool for the job. And choosing where to send your data, well, it all depends on what you need to do next. If you want to crunch numbers, make some charts, or play with what-if scenarios, Excel is your best friend, no question. If you need to write a formatted report or a memo, you'll export to Word. And if you just need to create a snapshot that nobody can edit, something to share or print, PDF is definitely the way to go. And this right here. This highlights a golden rule of good data management. You export to Excel to play with the numbers, to test your ideas, create forecasts, and you do all of that without ever risking your original, pristine data. Your database should always be that single, untouched source of truth. Now, when you export your data over to Word, Access creates what's called a rich text format file. And what's so great about this is that it holds on to your data's structure and formatting. It gives you this perfect starting point for adding more text, creating a professional memo, or merging it into an even bigger document. Okay, let's move on to our final section. This is where it all comes together in what is maybe the most powerful concept of all. The difference between creating a live connection to your data versus just making your own separate copy. This is where things get really, really interesting. Honestly, the best way to get your head around this is with a super simple analogy. Linking data. It's like streaming a movie. You're watching it live from its source. The data itself stays put in the original file, maybe an Excel spreadsheet. Importing, though, that's like downloading the movie. You're creating your own local, separate copy that now lives inside your database. So here are the key trade-offs you have to think about. Linking, that keeps your database nice and small, and it makes sure the data is always live from the source. The catch? You can't edit it from inside Access. Importing, on the other hand, gives you a complete, editable copy, but it makes your database bigger, and that data is now a static snapshot. It won't update if the original file changes. And just like with the attachments, Access gives you a really clear visual signal when you're working with a live connection. A table that's linked, not imported, is going to have this small arrow icon right next to its name. That way, you always know if you're looking at live data from somewhere else. So, after all of that, what's the big takeaway here? After exploring all these different bridges and pathways for our data, why does mastering these connections really matter? It pretty much boils down to these three core data flows. First, you enrich your database by bringing the outside world in with links and attachments. Second, you
you share your insights by sending data out in just the right format. And third, you create these powerful integrated systems by connecting to other data sources, where you have to make that crucial choice between a live link or a local copy.
By understanding how data moves in, out, and between applications, you totally transform your isolated database into a dynamic central hub for information. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In our crazy connected world, the most valuable data is almost never the data that just stays put. So what's the next connection you're going to build?